We're gonna cut through some paleo hype today. Hello, I'm Dr. Sam, this is Dr. Sam's Health, and today I will continue talking about paleo diet. As you know, I've already made a couple of videos about paleo. Today I would like to make a special one. I've already spoken about the whole concept behind paleo diet, and as you likely noticed, I'm a big proponent of this nutritional approach. I believe it's a great diet. Pretty much what Mother Nature meant for us, the nutritional plan that we have developed over the course of hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years of human evolution. And as a clinician and as a researcher, I really wanted to know what is the clinical evidence that backs this dietary plan. So I've already spoken about the meta-analysis that was describing the weight loss on paleo diet, and it was actually pretty interesting work. If you remember, if you don't, check out my video on that. I put some effort into that, but the whole idea was that they have taken 11 articles, reported data from 10, and there was one main article that provided them with more than 50% of data. The gist of it was that it was a longitudinal study for 24 months. At 6 months point, subjects have lost decent amount of weight and significantly more than the control group that followed some sort of Nordic nutritional guidelines, and which are pretty much standard nutritional guidelines in the Western world. And at 24 months point, lots of people kind of were not on track, and they regained some weight and returned like being closer to their baseline. It doesn't deny the fact that the diet is great, it's just the natural process, and we can actually see what happens if the guidelines are not being adhered to. And also it kind of hints that the diet is hard to adhere to, which I think I spoke about in one of my previous videos. So I mentioned then that I would like to talk about other effects of paleo diet, which are effects on heart, the cardiovascular health, on some inflammatory markers and so on. And I believe that this diet is really good, but we would like to get into the world of data on that. And there is not much information, and I was pretty lucky because I found this article, which is called Cutting Through the Paleo Hype, the Evidence for the Palaeolithic Diet, by Christopher Pitt, and it was published in the by the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, and I forgot the name of the journal, but it has something to do with Australian family doctors. I'll post it in the description of the video, as well as the link to this article. I think it's in public access, you can read it. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about this article in particular, and as usual, my disclaimers and my excuses for poor quality of my videos. First of all, I'm a medical doctor, I'm a practicing physician, and nothing I talk about in my videos should be taken as a medical advice. It is not, it's just merely my opinion, and it is well intended. Usually I'm trying to make it well researched, but it does not necessarily represent the opinions of my regulatory bodies, my colleges, my universities, and so on. So I'm not giving any medical advice. I hope I made it very clear. Also, I'm not criticizing anybody, I'm just like reviewing literature here. And finally, as you know, I made a commitment to make videos more regularly, and my issue was that previously I was trying to prepare really well for these videos. It would take me hours to film my videos, then edit them, and today I would like to say that, not today, in the last several videos and more to come, I will not adhere to this protocol. I will do my best to make these videos in more like free flow manner with less preparation, just because again I'm a practicing physician, I've got a lot of work, I've got lots of stuff to do, patients to take care of, personal life and so on. So I apologize if there are some hiccups in my videos. I don't really think anybody cares, but you know, I hope you understand, and I hope that the return of the investment here would be higher. Also, you might hear some noises. It's my lovely cat Kelly. She's here. I'm trying to distract her from my person today, just because I just came from work and she was very happy to see me and she was running around. She's eating something, she might come. Anyhow, let's get back to the article. The article is actually very nice. I was lucky to find it because it describes they pretty much have done the systematic literature search, and they have found quite a few, I cannot say quite a few, just several articles that would be randomized controlled trials of different things associated with Paleolithic diet, and they did not focus specifically on weight. They focused on other things. They start the article with very interesting intro. They talk about fad diets and how they come and go, and there is some controversy associated with fad diets, and they pretty much treat Paleolithic diet as a fad diet, which I'm not sure if it is fair or not, but it is their opinion, and I think it's a very nice cautious start. You know, you start talking about something that is looking like a fad diet. You know, there are lots of like YouTube influencers, TikTokers, whoever, celebrities talking about paleo, and obviously for real researchers, real doctors, it might look a little bit fishy, pun intended. So they have done systematic review, found quite a few articles. Actually, I'm not sure if it was that systematic, but they have found several articles, and I will just go over the list of them just to indicate what were the findings of these studies, and just to maybe discuss them very briefly. So first one is Lindberg and al. 2007, 29 patients with IHD, which is, I assume, stands for ischemic heart disease, and impaired glucose metabolism, which is important. Randomized controlled trial, paleo versus Mediterranean-like diet for 12 weeks. I don't know, in my opinion, the Mediterranean diet is actually quite close to paleo, except for bread and pasta, obviously, but you know, I can see the similarities, a lot of similarities. But anyhow, they showed there is no difference in weight change, but people on paleo had decreased WC, waist circumference, and increased glucose sensitivity. Again, I think it's actually related to bread and pasta that people still consume on Mediterranean diet. But Mediterranean diet is considered to be like almost a golden standard diet for prevention of cardiovascular problems, heart disease, also as well as strokes and so on. So, in my opinion, it's a very interesting comparison. Small trial, but it's of decent duration, 12 weeks, and I think it's a fair comparison still. And they have shown that paleo is slightly better than Mediterranean diet in terms of glucose sensitivity and waist circumference, which is good. Osterdahl et al. 2008, a pilot study of 14 healthy volunteers, so it's not a randomized controlled trial, but they had shown that in a small trial, likely uncontrolled, there was a mean weight loss of 2.3 kilos, decreased waist circumference by half of a centimeter, nothing, improved blood pressure, systolic specifically, increased non-significant increase in CRP, C-reactive protein, and they also noted that, I'm not sure whether the diet or people significantly lacked calcium. Important finding. I don't think that this article makes a lot of sense in terms of like being included here, but you know, they worked with what they had. Johnson et al. 2009, maybe Johnson, judging by umlaut over O. 13 patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, randomized controlled trial. It's a crossover, which is interesting. When you take small number of patients, you have them for 3 months in each arm, so they follow certain diet for 3 months, then switch to another for 3 months, and in a properly like double-blinded trials, you make sure that people do not know which intervention they receive. I'm pretty sure that with paleo diet it was difficult to hide. It was paleo versus diabetic-like diet. I'm not sure if patients were able to tell, and I'm not sure if even if it was meant to be a double-blind controlled trial, but it's a nice trial. And the fact that they had minimal number of patients, 13, is not too bad actually, because of the crossover design. Crossover designs are amazing. Actually, I'll make a video about them. They're amazing because they allow you to remove intergroup variability. So you've got the same group of patients, and accordingly, when you have two groups of patients, there is obvious difference between the two of them. It might not be statistically significant when they are randomized, but there is always some difference. and these differences, they play a role in the outcome. With crossover, it doesn't happen. Okay, on paleo, people had improvement in their hemoglobin 1AC, A1C, the diastolic blood pressure, lipid profile, weight, waist circumference, but no significant change in CRP, which is fine, lots of improvement here. Frazetta et al. 2009, 9 non-obese sedentary volunteers, metabolically controlled, paleo versus diet as usual, improved blood pressure, arterial distensibility, insulin sensitivity, plasma lipids. Good. Small study, 9 people. Another Johnson et al. 2013, 13 patients. I hope they are not the same. Same design, actually. And they have shown that paleo had increased satiety for energy density, and glycemic load. I'm not sure what it even means, increased satiety for energy. They also said it was difficult to adhere to paleo diet, I assume. But quite frankly, I'm not sure if it was the different group. Sometimes researchers, they conduct a study, there's a primary outcome, I guess, singular one, and then they publish some works on secondary data. But again, there is some improvement, and same group of authors on small set of patients showing this improvement. Okay, then we have Boris et al. 2014. They had 34 patients, decent group, metabolic syndrome. It was a randomized controlled trial that lasted 2 weeks, which in my opinion is a very short period of time for a nutritional intervention. Paleo versus isocaloric diet based on Dutch Health Council guidelines. I've never seen them, but I assume that they are close to any kind of Western world nutritional guidelines. Paleo decreased systolic and diastolic blood pressure and weight, minus 1.32 kilos, improved lipid profile. 1.3 kilos, it's like 3 pounds over the course of 2 weeks. Not too bad. No changes to intestinal permeability, inflammation, salivary cortisol. Okay, I actually quite frankly didn't expect any changes like that with paleo, unless you are very concerned about like gluten and leaky gut and so on. Then we have Whalen et al. 2014, University of Minnesota Cancer Prevention Research Unit data. This one is interesting. It's a case-controlled study, incidence of colorectal polyps in paleo versus Mediterranean diet. Actually, now I'm very curious what kind of study it was, because you don't study incidence of something like colorectal polyps in a short study. It must be a very long study, at least like 6 months, if not a year or 2 years. Not surprisingly, they discovered that there was similar non-significant decreased incidence in colorectal polyps on both diets. So I think it's the only article that speaks about cancer and the effects of diet on cancer. I would have to take a closer look at this article, but I don't think it's an easy diet or easy kind of study to envision, and you need something very long with preferably a large number of patients, and all these people have to adhere to these diets. So I'm not sure how feasible it was to conduct it. Likely it was a very expensive trial if it was done properly, and I'm not surprised that the results are non-significant. Okay, the next one is the one that we've spoken about. Is the study of Melberg et al. 2014, 70 patients, females who were obese and postmenopausal, RCT that lasted 2 years. And if you remember, I already mentioned this article a couple of times, but I specifically spoke about this article in the very beginning because it is one of the major sources of information in this review, and I'm happy that they have taken the data from the original study that was 2 years long. So at 6 months, they've shown that there is an increased weight loss, no difference at 2 years at the same time. So people stopped adhering to this diet well enough, or adhering to it at all. I remember there was a significant non-adherence to protein intake, and they reverted to baseline. Not completely, but the differences between two groups were not significant. They also have shown improved blood pressure, C-reactive protein, lipid profile in both groups. No difference in terms of glucose and insulin in both groups. Okay, again, very important article. Actually, out of this, all of these articles, it's the largest one in terms of number of patients, and I cannot say the most robust, but that is the article that is important here too. And the last one is Bly et al. 2015, 24 healthy male volunteers, amazing, acute, double-blinded RCT, 2 different paleo diets and WHO-based reference meal. No significant difference in glucose and insulin responses between different meals. So it's very acute trial, so they were given different meals to patients and showing if there is changes in glucose and insulin responses. That's very nice, but now I see why they didn't do a meta-analysis, simply because the studies are very heterogeneous. They have very different approaches, very different indicators, outcomes, and not surprisingly, it's impossible to combine them mathematically. Anyhow, as they say, reconciling the research, the authors, actually one author, concluded that the diet is associated with quite a few benefits, like increased satiety, independently of caloric or macronutrient composition, improvement in body weight, waist circumference, blood pressure, lipid profiles, and so on. However, and that's a very right point here, the studies were short, heterogeneous, I don't know why I'm mispronouncing this word today, heterogeneous, in terms of their design, and they were also underpowered in many cases. So it totally makes sense, and they also say that the strongest of the studies was Melbrook et al., who showed no long-term differences between participants on the Palaeolithic diet and those on the control at 24 months time point. And that's why they called the article Cutting Through the Paleo Hype, meaning that yes, there is a lot of hype, it is a valid approach, it seems to be a reasonable and right nutritional approach, again in my opinion and based on what we have seen in this article, but also we need way more research and way more robust research in order to prove that this diet actually works the way we hope it works. So that was pretty much everything I ever wanted to talk about in terms of my videos on Paleolithic diet. Maybe I'll make some sort of a review article, the summary, or article, video, some summary video, and that was everything I wanted to talk about. I'm glad that we are cutting through all the paleo evidence. I hope that this year I'll finish talking about paleo and I'll switch to something else. Something else will be likely either low carb diet, varieties of them. There is like just low carb diet. We can maybe separate Atkins. We can talk about keto and other variations, or I might talk about Mediterranean diet, which is actually the diet that is associated with great improvements in health, and it's pretty much, in my world, it's a gold standard diet for prevention of multiple cardiovascular issues. It is well known for that and pretty much proven to do so. But that's the reason why I'm not so eager to talk about it, just because lots of people are already familiar with this diet. So that was everything I want to talk about. Again, thank you for watching. If you like this kind of videos, please hit the like button, subscribe. If you have subscribed, thank you for being a supporter. Leave comments, ask questions. I'm happy to respond to you. Also check out my website, drsamshealth.com. I've got some blogs there, some tools for you, and so on. And that's pretty much it for today. I'm gonna edit this video on my MacBook Pro that I just purchased. By the way, I'll make a video about that device, just getting used to it. It's super fast in terms of video rendering. And once again, thank you for watching. All the very best.